Chris, and I welcome you to the Worldwide Educators Show, where our focus is the natural environment that supports all of us. And as you just heard, this is a song for the natural environment that was presented by Ava, and you can test that for yourself and see what life has to show you. Our show generally covers topics that I would say most people just gloss over. We get into the deeper, more interesting part of things. We talk a lot about chemtrails and GMO foods, things that everybody could pay attention to and make better choices with. And just for your information, we have nothing to do with the political, religious, spiritual, transcendental, any of these weird systems out there. We are just free, real beings of light. And speaking of free, real beings of light, we have Duane and Ava. Hello, guys.
Duane is always now.
Always now, yes. It's fun. It's fun time always now. So today on the program, I'm going to, it's going to be a little lengthy here, but it's going to be fun information. And that is, we're going to go over human history a little bit, and the people on the planet, and bring it up to date so people get a better reference here. Now, for most people on the planet, because they've come into this lifetime and they've forgotten their past lifetimes, it's going to rather contradict the ideas that they've absorbed for the longest time that have been created here. But we will have fun, and people can decide whatever they like. It's up to them. And for most people, they're going to be coming back here for more lifetimes anyhow, because they keep deciding it, and it's their choice. That's okay. We just present what we do, and it can be proven by each individual themselves. So here we go. Basically, the planet itself, as it evolved to where there could be life on it. Of course, just like anything that happens, if we build a house or something, all of a sudden it becomes a residence, not only for the people that move in, but for crickets, bugs, flies, spiders, whatever. Everything starts to move in, doesn't it? Seen or unseen, it's all of a sudden there. Termites inside the walls eating the house immediately because, they love the new wood, etc. And where I live in Orange County, yes, it's usually Douglas fir, and the termites love it. This is Termiteville. But you don't see the termites all the time. That's just it. The house looks really good. You're living in it, and as years go by, sometimes you see these little dust trails. But you really don't see what's going on, you might say, behind the scenes. And for the most part, this is how it is and how the world has been created so far. And so real fast, let's go back. And the real history from the officialness of, the governments and the religious orders and other agencies, etc., they really haven't given the audience out there or the public or the masses the real history of the world. And it only goes back so far. And really, they coordinated these ideas into a particular to, keep people basically unaware and herded into a particular factor. So we're going to jump back a little bit and we'll have to use our imagination to make this fun, and that is that as the first inhabitants came to the planet, where did they come from? Because they came from somewhere. They really did. But of course, we have these doctrines that specify this religious overtone. So again, each person decides, and it's not a matter of debate here or what's believable or truthful or whatever. It's a matter of what really took place. And again, this is where each person can prove this to themselves. They have all the answers if they're willing to explore and see this for themselves. But most people aren't, and that's fine too, whatever choice they make. So the first inhabitants of this planet actually created certain situations And they themselves, just like we see here, we have workforce or whatever, and still the idea of slave trades and all this, and a lot of the workforce is that anyhow, is still going on, and this is what took place in the beginning, because those that came here, they needed people to build things, so they had a workforce. They created certain things for their situation, and as time went on, they also established different ideas to keep the workforce, satisfied in a particular mode. So they keep working, and they keep doing things, and this is where religions, politics, and all these things started. They were created out of nothing. The gods of man, the doctrines, etc. These ideas were created to keep people busy and to, you might say, keep them tame and in line, and ideas invented around them, and the doctrines, etc. And so as we come into this the so-called modern world, as time comes into the more present time, we've established, in other words, those that, the governments, the political system, and those hidden behind the scenes of these agencies have established, the certain patterns to keep the masses in control, because as the world becomes more industrialized, this is a huge control factor, etc. And so we have many movies and many variety of, viewpoints going on here. But again, and it's a real discipline to look to oneself to really get the real answers to things, but everything is available. And for the most part, most people have been taught to be one-dimensional in a three-dimensional world. And when I mention this one-dimensional idea, they think, well, no, this is a three-dimensional world or four-dimensional, whatever, etc. They like to think about it. But actually, the viewpoint here is basically black and white, good and bad, right and wrong, up and down, you believe it or you don't, whatever. That's one-dimensional. And this is basically the viewpoint here for most people, because this is how they've been taught and conditioned through the different systems. And today basically you have the political, the religious, spiritual, educational, scientific, social systems, and really these are all ideas to keep the masses in control. You'll notice that the birds and animals in nature, what we call nature here on the earth, they don't align themselves or agree to any of these things. They're fine. And they work with the natural environment. Those that live in the society and obey these laws, rules, and regulations and create them also, these are the people that are destroying the natural environment, and we see it radically today. So we all come up through lifetimes, whether we're conscious of this or not, whether we believe it or not, and this idea of belief has, again, been a marketing ploy to most people to believe in space gods and things like that. And yes, there are other beings that exist in other dimensions and levels. Yes, they are. And people can call them gods or whatever, and actually they are the governor lords on different levels, and anyone can meet them. It's not a mystery at all. Anyone can learn to meet these people, these beings, these entities, whatever. It's no big deal. And they can be kind of clothed in mystery, like in the movie The Wizard of Oz, where there's a curtain and there's a lot of smoke and a lot of noise and funny things going on, and sometimes machinery, and, kind of like in these old science fiction movies, and that's really what it is, a lot of hocus pocus. Because realistically, we're all beings of light having our experience here, and in different body types, from aliens to humans to other forms, animals, birds, etc. Each, I call them U-tunes, or each awareness is going through its progression from lifetime to lifetime until it reaches that point to where it is actually ready to supersede creation, reincarnation, and these ideas, rebirth, and the cause and effect karma in creation altogether. And so this is a big journey, because life is even bigger. So creation is in life itself. It is not life itself. It is a simulator. It is a simulated life. And so how long a person stays in this position, it's really by choice and free will. Now, I was brought up a certain way for many lifetimes with what I term as the real universal guides, and this has always been their position, and basically Yabul Sakabi, Rebazar Tars, and others. In previous lifetimes, the person known as Paul Twitchell in this lifetime, who is no longer here on the physical, in other words, he is here and now with me all the time, and Rebazar, and who I call the boys or the real guides, they're always with me, but they don't always, not all of them have physical bodies. They're on the real side, what I call the real side, the invisible side to the physical eye. Now, I was brought up through lifetimes of this training to prepare for what I'm presenting now, because it's huge. It takes a lot, and to also, you might say, get through what has been decided here that's mainly deception. This world looks good, but it's mainly constructed out of deception, and things here can only last so long because deception only lasts so long in creation. So unless there's the reality life is, which I call the all-aliveness, and the real universe is supporting what is in creation, then eventually it just decays and dwindles. But it looks good for a while. Kind of like our bodies when they're young, they look good for a while, but eventually you might say the life goes out of them, and eventually we leave the body. And what people have been taught here and educated with is a one-dimensional, robotized, militarized educational institutions. They're really institutions that many people go to later on in life, and that's what they are. People are institutionalized here. In other words, they're in a matrix that's framed a particular way. Now, again, my process and lifetimes, as Paul and I were prepared to come into this lifetime, Paul was to do his presentation first, and he labeled his presentation, he labeled it Ekankar, and this was his choice. He had the choice to label it anything he wanted. That's what he chose. He was brought up through certain so-called teachers and masters, etc., and many of them claim him as the student, but the real universal guides were actually backing him and just moving him along so that he could gain experience in these other areas and then refer to them so there would be a comparison. And so he formulated this, his ideas, and creatively put them into motion, and kind of the official date was October 22nd, 1965, when he received the Rod of Power from Rebazar Tars. Now, most of the world does not know what this Rod of Power thing is, this reality, but really it's just a term that is the all-aliveness of the all-is, and Paul referred to this as Rebazar spoke to him in his books. Paul wrote about this, the isness. This was hinted at, but Paul first started off with the God idea, which was an invention here on the earth, because most people are into the God idea or the spirit idea, which is basically off the astral realm, which is the secondary light, which is knowledge. And this is a start for everybody, and this is where Paul started, because he knew he had to take it a step at a time. And so this Rod of Power that most people do not know about is a true reality with the real universal guides, and they prepare certain individuals for this on this level here in the physical realm. And so this is a directness to the real universes beyond creation itself. And this is where most people do not understand this, because it just becomes a little bit too much for them. And so this is what Paul termed this reality at the time, the Rod of Power, which is fine. And so with that, he has the backing of life itself and the real universal guides to present to the world what he does, and as he does it honorably and sincerely, because this is a pure reality that is all alive, this is life itself, an expression of the all is itself, which is like a big ball of sun, like a big sun in the sky, and this is what the suns represent here on all the different levels. They are a representative, simply a symbol or a reference to the all is itself. And this is really an inconceivable position. It becomes so that it would seem as though it doesn't exist at all. This is just how far out you might say it is. And so as Paul took his position here, he used different terms and labels, and he first used the God idea. Paul wrote the book, The Tiger Sang, and I remember when I was young that, and I was a surfer, and I still am, and Rebazar was with me, brought me into this life, kept prompting me at a certain age. I was very young, about 17, 18 years old, and even before that I had many experiences all this life that I never divulged to most people because I was not to say anything. At a certain point started to prompt me into getting familiar with what Paul was presenting. And so, each lifetime becomes a particular, even though we have experiences from past lifetimes. When we take on a new body and new mind, we have to deal with the configurations of the new body and the new mind and the new surroundings we have, because each lifetime is different. One of my 8 books is From Then to Now, which is my reference to the past life before this one, where I was a half-breed Indian, known as Goldie, and in there, Rebazar is teaching me, etc. And Paul referred to some of his past lives. One of them was in the drums of Ek, and Paul and I knew each other in a past lifetime, but we were both doing our own thing, but at the same time taught by Rebazar and the real guides at the time. Now, as Paul came into this life, the term of the real universal guides was held back, and he created his Ekankar, and so he established certain doctrines, certain writings, etc. in his books and what have you, and a lot of people had experiences along these lines, and he referred to Rebazar and the boys, Yabal, Gopal Das, Fubi Kwants, and many, many others, as Ek masters. This was kind of the setup for his time, and to see how far this would go. Anything that you do here, you're kind of like a test pilot in creation, because it can go any way at all because of free will. And this is very, very real. Prophecy and all these things like that are simply along the lines of something that's been decided and done, and then the prophecy comes out because it's cause and effect. That's all. So when anybody goes down to the UPS store and does a next day letter and says, and the fellow behind the counter says, well, it'll be there tomorrow, that's actually prophecy, you see, because the cause is there, you mailed the letter, the effect is it will arrive because we're going to make it arrive. And this is really prophecy. So many people are mystified by this, but once you see behind the scenes how this works, it's no big deal. It's just cause and effect here in creation. So as Paul created his position here, he used certain terms to build from, and basically using the God idea, he created a God worlds chart, which he called, and showed the different levels, and basically starting off aligning with the 5 bodies of man, which are the physical, astral, causal, mental, and etheric, and these correspond to the different faculties we have. The physical is the 5 senses, the astral is the emotional body with the sensations, the feelings, etc. The causal is the memory body, where some of the Akashic records are kept there, not all of them, but some of them in the past lives. The next one is the mental, where the so-called Lord God or the gods of man are. This is the Kalam God, because people have a mental idea of their God. So this is the governor Lord there. He's called the Lord God. And we call him the Kal or the Kalam God, etc. There's many, many names. Each religion, each invented religion has their own name for this individual. He's just a governor, and anybody can go see him. But he likes to play a lot of tricks. He's a funny guy, and just like politicians, he's really a politician, a political puppet of himself, you might say, and he's got this creature that's been created in the lower worlds called the influence, which always bugs him. So they have a good time together. Anyhow, as you read my books, the Adventurous series, you learn a lot about this and how it works.